Okay, I'm going to take a look at Elizabeth's portraiture project now. Okay. Pictures of your husband. Let's see here. The light looks pretty good on this one. The focus may be a little bit soft. I'm not quite sure. One of the ways to tell if your portrait is in focus is like if only one thing is in focus, it needs to be the eyes. And one way you can tell if you got a good image or not is after you take the picture, look at the screen on the back of your camera and zoom in as far as you can and look at the eyes and see if you can see the distinct eyelashes. And as long as that's crisp, everything else is okay. If it's soft, and it might just be I'm a little tired. My eyes are kind of bothering me, so it might just be that nothing's in focus for me right now. But the light is nice. I think maybe the white balance is a little orangey. It looks like there's some kind of super saturated spots on here. I'm not sure if that was through editing or something else. But the light looks good though. It's flattering. It's flattering light. Okay, and this one it's the light looks pretty good. I guess it's just when I do a portrait, you've got an awful lot of area that's nothing's going on, and especially if you're going to have your subject just kind of facing you like that, you should probably rotate your camera so that it's vertically oriented and let him fill as much of the space as possible. And I know you wanted to feature all these different backgrounds, but the background doesn't need to dominate. I think that if you filled the frame with him and just let a little bit of the background show, that would still get the point across. And so I would say that this isn't really the best composition. And another thing is when you take a picture of somebody just straight frontal like that, when you take a picture of somebody just kind of straight on frontal like that, it's generally not the most interesting way that you can show that person. It's usually better to have them kind of from the side or three-quarter view, and even engaged in something instead of just looking at straight at the camera is often a nice thing to do. Okay. This one I would say that again, I think your focus is a little soft. It looks that way to me. A couple of compositional things. If you wanted to have the fence behind him, I think what I would have recommended is that you put him in a chair and let him sit in front of the fence so that, because his head is just like right there, even with the top of the fence, and that creates space and composition problems. I think it would be best if you put him in a chair and just, had the fence just fill up all of the background. And same thing as before, I think it would be good to, rotate your camera vertically for something like this. And then also I think your background's a little blown out, and if you had him down lower, where the fence was actually completely going over his head, then that wouldn't be an issue because the sky wouldn't even be in it. So, that's kind of my observation on that one. This is probably your best one. The focus looks pretty good. The white balance looks pretty good. The skin tones might be a little bit washed out. They seem a little dull, especially, in comparison with like this one, which of course you had the wonderful light that time of day, but you've got these nice warm skin tones. Surely the skin tones here are very gray, and that kind of makes sense. He's in front of the gray wall, but here they're kind of warm. But this one, he seems really kind of pale, and I'm not sure if maybe it's a little bit overexposed. Perhaps you could, warm it up just a little bit by changing your white balance, and even, maybe even masking out the background and only changing white balance on him. If you don't want to, like, because I think the blues and the greens in the background look really good. So that's just kind of a thought. But I think, overall, this is probably your best one. You're doing in this one what I was recommending in the others, which was to put a vertical orientation and to just have that backdrop, surround him, fill the frame. You could probably have even gotten a little closer to him. You probably got a little bit more room up here than you need. And I think what could have happened is if you got a little closer, I don't know that we need to go all the way to the waist on a face portrait. I think that head and shoulders a lot of the time is plenty, and I think that I would rather see those pixels taken up, with facial features than with shirt. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about there. Okay, and I'm looking at your shutter speed, 1/40th of a second. That's probably why your focus is a little soft. It's, either from camera blur or from your subject moving, because you really don't want to go any slower than 1/60th of a second on that. Same thing on this one. I see you went really, really slow. You should bump up your ISO a little bit so that you don't have that problem with blur. You really don't want to take a picture of a person with that slow of a shutter speed, because they will move. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this one looks pretty good. Probably I'd say the same thing about the white balance on this one. It's the same light as this one. I really like in both of these that he's looking away from the camera, and it seems, kind of candid. This one also, I think, is a nice composition because you've got something interesting going on. You've got this nice backdrop surrounding him, and then you've got this little patch of red here, which is really nice. It's really nice. So, this one, I think you've got, like, probably these two, I think, are your best backgrounds so far. Okay, and then this one is kind of, some of the same problems as before. If you had to go to 6400 on your ISO and you still had to get a shutter speed of 1/4 of a second, well, a couple of things. The smaller aperture didn't really help you get sharper focus, because if you're having to use a slow shutter speed, that kind of defeats the purpose. I think that you would have been best off to really open up that aperture, let in as much light as you can, and have a more shallow depth of field. So it's like I said before, if the eyes are in focus, everything else can be out of focus, and that's just fine. But the other thing you can do if you're indoors, and there's not enough light, get more light. Bring some more lights in, or work during the daytime and maybe have your subject like sitting near a window with some natural light coming in, and then use some artificial light on the other side. And then the other thing I would say is this is something we really want to avoid. This is why we try to have our lights like kind of cancel each other out. Like if you have one light shining on the subject from one direction, the other shining on the subject from the other direction, what they can do is the light can kind of cancel out the shadows of the other light source, or better yet, use reflected light, actually, get a white card or something and have the light directed at the card and then bounce off of the card and back onto your subject. And of course that's going to take a lot of light, but this is probably that this is not very flattering for the subject. So just kind of things to keep in mind in the future. Okay, so let's take a look at your conclusion. Okay. Very good. Nice job.